All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad you can join us today. It's a little brisk, but we ended up turning out to be a nice day. We called this press conference to basically announce that this morning, environmental group New York ENCON event, EnvironCon, and residents filed a lawsuit in federal court in the Southern District of New York concerning the pollution of the Basher Kill and the Never Sink river. Over there to my right is the Shining Springs Inc. And on top of the mountain are a large number of buildings and structures, some of which were improperly constructed without permits, and some of which are the subject of a pending site plan amendment. It also includes a wastewater plant for the people that work and live there, as well as guests at the Performing Arts Center. As you can see from the chart over here, testing in these waters in 2020, there was a large amount of fecal coliform, well above the legal limit. It subsided corresponding to the pandemic, but then in the spring of this year, construction activities picked up, even though no permit had been issued and even though a draft environmental impact statement had not been filed as was directed by the town of Deer Park Planning Board. And the amount of coliform shot up to almost, you can see the level, almost twice what it was before, and a good 10 times greater than the amount permitted by law. As a result, we gave notice to the DEC and the EPA, and we had to wait 60 days, which we did. And then this morning we filed a lawsuit in federal court seeking that an injunction prohibiting them from discharging the pollutants into the Basher Kill and the Never Sink, and also requiring them to spend the money necessary to do any remedial actions that are required, as well as the civil penalties that are imposed by the Clean Water Act. This is obviously a very beautiful area. The people here rely on these waterways for recreation and for just the quality of life, and to have a large property owner, for lack of a better word, kind of thumb their nose at what is required by law and pollute these rivers is a shame. So we've brought this lawsuit. We're hoping to get relief from the court. We have tried, the local municipalities. We have tried local courts. But they don't really seem to have the resources to address the problems being created by the government. So with that, I would like to, I don't know if any of the plaintiffs, Alex, would you like to say anything, or? But yeah,
Just
like
to
to
keep
step
it
forward,
brief.
maybe?
Yeah.
Come up here.
Why don't you introduce yourself?
Right. Alex Silla, I'm the founder of NY EnvironCom, who serves as the fiscal sponsor for the Deer Park Rural Alliance, who's been working on this issue for many years. We've come in the last few years to give them support. We as a nonprofit are focused on land use, and this is one of the most blatant examples of the impacts of poor land use throughout New York State. There's many things, issues caused by the home rule structure and the way things are set up on an environmental regulatory issue and all that. But basically, you have a piece of land that shouldn't be used for what it's being used for, and that's creating a huge amount of runoff impacts, not limited just to this water pollution, though this water pollution is one of the most obvious and ones that have the most direct impact on the immediate neighborhood and all that. So we're gonna do what we can to fix this, and hopefully this will also serve an example for many of the similar things we see in New York State, and make some progress on resolving this issue to the extent that it can be.
Thank you for coming. I'm Grace Woodard. I'm one of the co-founders of a very rural local group called Deer Park Rural Alliance. I'm one of the co-founders of it. And we began very informally when we found out that there had been a proposed development up the road from Dragon Springs, a 2 million square foot project called Deer Park Commons. We organized against that, and that project has disappeared. But as we say, these things are like zombies, they keep coming back. And there might be 2 or 3 years between site plans before the planning boards. We've also had another further up the road, a very inappropriate mini mall on the narrow Galley Hill Road. And we have been gathering data on that. We've been remeasuring the wetlands. Deer Park Rural Alliance acts as an advocate, a watchdog in the town. We're kind of like the advocacy arm for NY Environcom. And everyone is a volunteer, and our work has started really in 2014. The building and the violations are, there's like an arm's length of them. And we foil regularly, and we are very fact-based, and we like to squelch rumors and go for what is accurate. And it's a little bit of a David and Goliath situation here, but we keep going. Thanks.
Just following up on one thing she said, you got to really hand it to this group because they are fact-based. They've been very diligent in testing the water and having the waters, the samples being tested or measured at a professional laboratory. We have the results. We have it certified. They've been doing this ongoing for almost 2 years now. They're the ones that found this, because it's not something that's necessarily visible from the eye, by the eye, and they're the ones that were able to discover that this is going on. And so without their efforts, this pollution would have just been ongoing and ignored and continued and exasperated. So I've got to really hand it to their diligence in that. Bob, I don't know, would you like to say some words? Or Bob is our host today. This is his beautiful home and is obviously directly affected.
Yeah, my name is Bob Major, and I've been here 35 years, and I've been watching Dragon Springs pollute this river, construction, and heavy rainfalls and mud coming down, and sewer pipes being drained into in 2015. So I'm very happy that this procedure is now moving along, because it's time. It's time that we stood up and said this is enough. That's all. I appreciate everything that's being done. Thank you.
Thank you. So with that, I'd like to, if there's any questions anybody has with regard to the lawsuit and the situation.
So is the high coliform levels, is that essentially the result of too many people using too small a sewage system?
It's partially that, but it's also partially not running the sewage system correctly. It's got to be, if they were doing it and containing it and operating it properly, then maybe you wouldn't have a problem. So there's obviously, we haven't had an opportunity to go in and inspect the wastewater treatment plant yet. That would be part of the lawsuit to see exactly what's causing it. But I don't think there's any doubt that this is where the pollution is and this is where the compound is. One is causing the other. So part of the benefits of the lawsuit is we will be able to do some investigation as to exactly what the cause is.
The complaint mentions Neversink River. Does the runoff directly affect the Neversink, or is that by virtue of the Basher Hill flowing into the...
But that's
The juncture is about a quarter of a mile down.
it's not very far.
Right
I would
at the
disagree.
end.
It directly affects the Neversink.
Yes,
Well, in the sense of it's flowing right to it. So,
yes.
yeah.
Okay.
So supposing the lawsuit is successful, how can you ensure compliance with the law then?
Well, a federal court has a lot of power, and they have the ability to order specific remedial actions, and they also have the ability to order constant testing to make sure that it's not happening again, at the cost of hopefully of the defendant. So the federal court, by taking a Clean Water Action action, we are able to have the full power of a federal court to oversee it.
Was it important that you went through local attempts, the local courts and everything, and the feds would have said, well, you got to try local before you come to us? Was that important, the documentation of local efforts?
Well, they're somewhat simultaneous because the Clean Water Act is very specific, and and that there's specific rights with regard to pollution of the waterways. Some of the local issues are more to deal with building permits and construction without permission. So they're kind of a little bit different.
Right,
The
okay.
town engineer, Alfred Fusco Jr., has noted failures for Dragon Springs to comply or to competently care for their sewage system. It's in his notes, and it's been foiled, and there's a long record of failed water system treatment.
One of the I
Thank
think the situation is Dragon Springs is obviously a very large, financially very substantial organization, and the town of Deer Park is a very rural town that resources are limited, and I do think the town of Deer Park is a little bit intimidated by them. There was a lawsuit a few years ago where the town of Deer Park was sued by Dragon Springs because of allegations that they were violating their religious freedom under a federal statute, and I believe the town of Deer Park either settled it in disadvantaged terms or lost. So I think, again, it's just, in some ways, we're supplementing what government can do, especially the local government, by bringing this action. Any other questions?
Well, on that issue, on that aspect of this, the EC's been negotiating a consent order
Correct.
for all these violations for a while. Can that achieve the same thing that you're trying to do?
No, we've been in contact with the DEC. We were obligated to. The things that they're seeking consent for do not relate to the runoff. And so they are something.
And that consent order has been going on for over a year.
We are obligated to, and we will give the DEC copies. And it's possible that anything else? Well, I'm glad first January. I was wondering, we were holding a press conference outside in January. Whether that was such a great idea or not, but we got a nice turnout, and I
Yes.
really appreciate everybody coming. And if anybody needs any additional information, I believe our contact information is on the press release, and I'd be happy to talk to them.
Yes, please. There's a
And if you like, you can walk up and you can get accosted by the dragons.
Grace